about to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not really.
Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with your Romancelandia Monthly. It's that time. So yeah, I'm going to be doing these last Sundays of the month / first Sunday, depending on just what's going on. This week, I decided to do this Sunday because, as you may know or you may not, last night I had a live where we talked over one of the things we're going to talk about now. But we're not going to go into it as much detail here. But yeah, let's just roll right into it. I'll have timestamps down below if you want to skip to any specific section. And it's been a fun month. I actually thought we were gonna have kind of a chill month, and I almost could have gotten away with just doing a live for Romancelandia Monthly where we went through the Vivians, but that didn't work out. So first things first, we are gonna talk about the Vivians because I feel like that's what you probably want to know the most about. Maybe not, I don't know. But the Vivian Finalists were dropped this month, and there was quite an interesting reaction to this fact. So in that live, I went through every single book that was a finalist, and we talked about what ones I've heard of, what ones I haven't. An overwhelming majority of the books on this list I've never heard of. So that's interesting, I think. We also had some discourse because would it be the Vivians? Would we not be renaming an award after a Black woman who helped create this amazing thing called the RWA if we didn't totally fuck it up in some capacity? I just feel like it wouldn't be the RWA if that was the case. At this point in my life, that's how I'm feeling. So it came to our attention that this book called At Love's Command, here's the cover. I have reviewed it on Goodreads as a no thank you and why. Featured the hero committing genocide against indigenous peoples of the Americas. And then justifying it. Like, he took part in Wounded Knee. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the tweets I saw around this. I know people who judged, and I'm not going to give anything away about them because I can't talk about it yet, to my knowledge. If they want to talk about it, they can hit me up, and I'm happy to do a live with them and go all into this. Like, let me know. But again, I don't know who is and isn't comfortable talking about their experience judging. But Kit Masters was a judge, and she tweeted about this, how this book made it through and there was nothing on that rubric to mark things as racist or just an offensive mess, among other things. And of course this falls into the category of romances that I refuse to read, which is like the inspirational Christian romance, because I continue to see the same thing out of these books, and that is that they perpetuate racism and stereotypes that aren't good for anybody involved. And I just don't think that upholds what the values should be there in any capacity at all. But that's another story. So Kit tweeted, we'll read their tweets real quick. So Kit was given 10 books to judge for the Vivians. One book was written by a white woman about a culture that wasn't hers, and it was very integral to the plot and not done well. And the problem is that the scoring rubric doesn't let you write in this book's an offensive mess. Also, I'm not quite sure if we're allowed to talk about the judging process yet, but I will say the mandatory DEI training for the Vivians was incredibly general and didn't have direct applicable bias guidance for judging books. It felt more like generic workplace stuff. I'm not trying to trash talk the Vivians because the road to overcoming the issue-laden Ritas is doubtlessly long, difficult, and fraught with failure and criticism. But I applaud that they're still trying. I signed up to be a judge because I wanted to support that effort. I think the Vivians can do better, like a lot better, but the process and scoring metric is definitely already more detailed, and an improvement on years prior. The effort seems genuine. If you're tired and over it, that's 100% fair, but if you have the energy, email them your feedback. Judging was an incredible time suck, and many times throughout these past months, I've questioned why the fuck I signed up to do this. My poor group chat listened to all my doubts about this contest, but the first-hand experience gave me a behind-the-scenes POV of the contest flaws. Then she says, I think the real test is whether they'll take feedback and fix what went wrong with the Vivians this year. I imagine they probably will, because they didn't put that much effort into the revamp, only to fumble at the 10-yard line. It really bothered me to see that book making it to the finals. There should be a way to flag entries with questionable content for further review in a cultural sensitivity read by a qualified CRR before advancing. I just want to say that this book is terrible. This is awful. This does not give me faith. It continues to enforce something I've been talking about, I feel like, in detail since this happened, and why I didn't sign up to judge, is the fact that one, doing this, I felt it would be inappropriate for me to be a judge, because I talk about romance drama. So if an author came across my plate that I've talked about in a negative sense, I'm not going to want to read that book, nor am I going to fairly evaluate it necessarily. And that's a whole other issue. But I'm not going to be able to give them a fair take, let's say. And so because of that, I just knew I didn't want to judge. And I also felt that the judging rubric left a lot of room for racism at the end of the day, because once again, it's very easy to say that an AAVE term or something like that is grammatically incorrect, or they them pronouns. The list goes on and on of things that people will turn on a rubric around grammar into a, well, this is da 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 da, so that's why I can mark it down, without it seeming like they're trying to be a bigot at the end of the day. And then I just wanted to point out a great tweet from FunMe, who I absolutely adore on Twitter. If you're not following her, you should be. I don't know what you're doing with your life. She talks about Beverly Jenkins all the time and other amazing Black romance authors, and I get lots of recs from her. She's the one who came up with the Crockpot Instapot steam factor, and she talked about how just because you can go back to history and find an account or a moment does not mean it should be turned into a romance book. Y'all do this a lot in interracial historical romances. You go back and find a historical interracial coupling and think that gives you carte blanche. To write a romance book with no real understanding of the history or ability to keep it from being a shitty, abusive text. There's a lot of couplings and situations that manifested but should never be in a romance book. For example, listen to why Beverly Jenkins doesn't write romance books set in slavery. You can't rewrite history when you write a historical like this. I don't care if you read it like it's a fantasy. It's just gross at the end of the day, and I think the reason I love reading non-white historical romances is because I think a lot more care is taken in the placement and the world building around the environment, versus just choosing to ignore slash like basically putting it in a fantasy land where slavery doesn't exist, because like obviously we all know how those dukes got their money, and it sure shit wasn't honest and fair work. That's the Vivians. I just I want better. I hope for better. I hope we see a good turn around from feedback on this one, and that they kind of shape up a little, but we'll see. I don't know if we will or not. And then the piece of content I don't want to have to talk about, but here I am yet again. So heads up, I'm friends with both these people, and I actually, before this call out happened, was drafting a message to both of them about why I was personally hurt by the video. I do understand that we're all allowed our own opinions, and I get that, but we have all lived through a over a year now, that has been so different than anything most of us have ever experienced in our lives. I don't know anybody else had to stay in their house for a year, possibly alone, possibly isolating from family because they're in the medical field, etc., living with fear or anxiety. You know, this last year's changed us, changed everyone in a way. We're all not walking out of this year or the next year the same. There's no way. There's no way. So it's changed us all a lot. And this video was on Charles, my friend Charles, who I'm doing a read along with, his channel. It was called In Conversation With, and he had a conversation with Jess from Peace Love Books. And they were talking about Booktube content. The thumbnail was a snarky clickbait, like Booktube content sucks, and it was her like text bubble said like, you said it, I'll throw it up here. And I do think there's a discussion to be had around Booktube content and around monetizing and what goals are and what's, you know, why it's okay for us all to have different goals on this platform. We don't all have to want to hustle and make it big. We can just love making the content and not care that we're monetized. We can also love making the content and want to make a little bit of money from it. I don't think there's anything wrong with either option, and I think it's all a personal choice, and we definitely should not judge anyone for what choice they make in this front. If I can make a full-time job living doing booktube, that'd be amazing. And anyone else that does it, I'm like cheering them on because I think that's incredible, personally. So the video, I think the main issue with it was the tone presented, because it did have a tone that felt condescending to the kind of content that has come about in the last year, which are things like hours-long reading sprints or lives. I've done some myself, you know, and I think the context they were lacking in their discussion was reinforcing, one, that it was an opinion, but also the context of the last year. How many people survived, had human interaction, and got out of like maybe a funk because they knew that day at whatever time they could turn on so-and-so's channel and just hang out for a couple hours and read or watch, do whatever, but have somebody else in the background. I personally, in the last year, have had a lot of time alone. And I'm gonna tell you, those long reading sprints, those lives have gotten me through. So I can only imagine for somebody who's working long hours and in a COVID unit or whatever, who watches booktube, which I know y'all are out there, or other situations, you know, like needing that comfort. To me, like, it could have just been presented in a better fashion, more around like, this is the kind of content I don't want to do, or the kind of content that doesn't work for me. And then on the comments, like a lot of us, I was in the comment section too, saying, yeah, I feel like real weird because a lot of the things in here are things that I like and I like to do in my videos. And it's okay. Like, it's okay if my videos aren't for you, and it's okay if your videos aren't for me. Like, I can still support you as a creator in other ways. Like, you don't have to love everything and watch everything everyone puts out. I sure can't. I try to watch as many of my friends' videos as I can, but I can't get to everybody. So I do my best. I try to make sure I'm watching my friends that are much smaller creators. Same thing, like I try to like divvy up the love a little to make sure like they don't feel forgotten. And it's hard. And I think it's hard because, you know, when Jess started her booktube channel and she pioneered the Romancetube community in a way, right? Like, she was one of the first. Yeah, so she was the first, and then we had a couple other people join, and then we've grown a lot in the last year. 1 to 2 years, we've boomed as a community into a massive community. That's why I made the Discord. I wanted somewhere for everyone to hang out and to be able to connect with people and have buddy read setups and be able to say, like, you know, do you want to do a live and hang out with me? Just to bring together some sense of community, not just for our viewers, but also for ourselves as creators, because I feel like it oftentimes can feel like you're in a bubble and it's scary to like reach out to a creator who's bigger than you maybe and ask to collab or whatever. So I felt like it just felt like a weird attack on everyone else's content and what's wrong with it, versus saying like, this is just the content I don't like and this is that. You know, they called it filler content, which fine if that's what you want to call it. You know, a lot of people use sprints to get monetized, and I think that's fair. I don't think there should be shame or any like disgust at people taking advantage of something that's there and people like right now to get monetized. It's not like you make that much money on booktube. It's, you know, like most of us are not even making a payment a month. Like, so yeah, I think one of the harder parts of all this too was just their response felt a little tone deaf, because Charles was just saying thanks for watching to everyone. Like, I saw one commenter who was talking about how a lot of these videos are what got them through the last year. And I just think the tone of like, we need to acknowledge the last year. You know, a lot of us are still grieving the loss of a year, basically. You know, not everyone's lives changed significantly, but we sure as shit lost people. And, you know, beyond that, losing people who maybe didn't believe in science and other things can be really hard. And we all are going to have left 2020 and we'll leave 2021 in a very different place than where we are right now, I think. But yeah, so I just think it was a tone issue at the end of the day. They did apologize. Be But Bookish did a call out on Instagram around it and talked about it as well. You know, it's not where I want to be. I don't want to be covering my friends making mistakes, but again, also we're all human and we do make mistakes. And I think we as a community have a lot of room to talk about monetization and growth as a channel and what it means and how it works and how sometimes it just doesn't happen, and it's really fucking hard. We as creators, I think, are allowed to ask for more than a free book as compensation, and the amount that we promote various authors and things, like, you know, it's okay to take sponsorships and to become monetized and to do lives. And I think as a creator, you have to make the content you love at the end of the day, and whether or not that's what other people love, that's okay, but you will attract the people who want to watch the content you're gonna make. Yeah, I would be very interested in a critical conversation. I'm not sure exactly how I want to format it or do it, but maybe about like goals with Booktube and monetizing and things like that versus, you know, people who just want free books. And that's, again, it's totally okay for either option. I just think there's a guilt associated with the idea that as a creator you would want money for promoting books and the work that goes into making content. They have apologized, both of them. They took the video down, so you will not be able to go watch it. I don't think you're missing much. I think, again, it's a conversation that maybe even with more people involved would have been a little better. A round table of sorts, you know, where a lot of people that have varying opinions were involved. And yeah, maybe with a slightly less clickbaity thumbnail. So on to funner, happier things, I guess. I wanted to share a couple things that got optioned this month. A book announcement from the marketplace and a article. So first things first, Kennedy Ryan's Hoops series has been optioned, as well as Kwana Jackson's Real Men Knit, which is like romance adjacent, we'll say. I've heard it's more women's fiction than romance, but still, exciting things. Definitely want to watch a show about men knitting or a movie. I think that sounds great, so I'm here for it. I also wanted to share that a historical Latinx romance is coming from Berkeley by Liana de la Rosa about 3 sisters called the Luna Sisters, and this sounds great. I love non-European historicals, so I know I'm very excited for this one. There's this great article on forward.com about the intimacy experiment by Rosie Danon, which has a hot rabbi as our male love interest and a former porn star as the heroine. She's now like a sex educator, and she talks about, they talk about in the article how it's okay for like a rabbi to be attractive and etc. and all these things, and the lack of Judaism in romance books. And I thought it was a really interesting read for me to learn more, because I do think, I mean, I know there's a lack of it because I have friends in the community who are Jewish, and every time a book comes out, they're just like, yay! And I'm always like, yay with them, because I'm not Jewish, but I think it's really cool to see yourself reflected back in books. And I definitely have noticed that we don't see that often enough in romance. That is everything that happened this month. Let me know if I missed any exciting book news you were excited about. I know I don't cover everything. I can't. I don't have time. These would be way too long. But let me know if I missed anything that you thought was exciting this month. And if not, let me know something cool that happened to you in the month of April. Month of April, not March. Or drop a flower emoji in the comment box. You can find links to everything I talked about in that description box for you to go check out for yourself, as well as links to anywhere you can be my friend on the internet. And I will see y'all in just a few days in my next video. Bye.
Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know.